Hi everyone. So I wanted to well, in all my videos, I love to spend some quality time with you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy spending the quality time with me also. A lot of people I've noticed over the years, they want that instant gratification where they want you to get straight to the topic and they want you to get to the point right away and so they can move on. You know what? With me, with Miss Stace here, guys, on my channel, it is not that way, okay? We spend quality time with each other on my channel because there is a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose to life, to why we have certain people cross our paths, our life paths. It's for a reason. And in my eyes and in my heart, the way I feel is, you know what? We're spending quality time together. So thank you guys for spending some quality time with me. If you want to, if you stick to the very end of all my videos, thank you so much, because truly, from the bottom of my heart, you guys, I love and want to spend quality time with you guys. That's why my videos are as long as they are. They can actually go much longer, but I do try to keep them a little bit shorter so they're not half hour to an hour long. But what I wanted to talk about, you guys, okay, I've been meaning to mention this or do a couple videos on this, was ever since I moved to Arizona, I've noticed a huge change. I mean, from Alaska to Arizona, a huge change in my fruit, the ripening of my produce. It is amazing how fast my produce, how it ripens so quickly here in Arizona. That's one of the number one things I've really noticed from moving from an extremely cold climate to an extremely hot climate. And so I know in Alaska, my fruit would ripen. It would take so long to for my fruit to ripen. But here in Arizona, like the day that I buy it, like the next day it is ripe. Like if I buy it rock hard, if that's my only option, I don't choose to buy my fruit rock hard. I try to buy the ripest possible on the spot, but if I can't find any properly good ripened fruit, then of course I'll buy the rock hard stuff. But one thing I noticed is, like, literally the next day or the next day or two, my produce, my fruit will be ripe and ready. It has shocked me. It has shocked me because up in Alaska, it would take at least half a week to a week before it's actually fully ripened. So that's one thing I've really noticed that I love, love. And I know why that happens, because in Alaska, the air is just cool. Even in the summertime, of course, that depends on who you're talking to. But for me, I know, being a lifelong Alaskan, I'm Alaskan, from birth, and I still love Alaska. I really do. One thing that I know of, I can see the difference between climates, is that Alaska is just naturally at a cooler temperature because it's so far north. That makes sense because it's so far north. But 60 and 70 degrees and even 80 degrees in Alaska is not the same as 60, 70, 80 degrees in Arizona. There's a difference, okay? There's a difference. I can feel the difference. It's kind of weird to describe. I don't know if you guys can understand what I'm saying here, but trust me, it's hard to describe, but it's just not the same. I mean, you can be 70 degrees in Alaska and then 70 degrees in Arizona, or 80 degrees in Alaska, 80 degrees in Arizona, and there's a difference. The air is just warmer in Arizona. It's just warmer in the southern part of the United States. Like, you can feel the warmth in the air. Even when you're not in the sunshine, even when you're in the shade, the air is just warm. In Alaska, the air is cool, and the only kind of heat that you get is if you're standing in the sun. Okay, and but winter time is a totally different story in Alaska because you can't feel no heat from the sun. You can be standing in the sunshine and you won't feel a thing. You won't feel no heat from the sun at all. But here, that's what makes the difference in your fruit ripening. The fruit, of course, the fruit ripens on the tree, but I mean, I'm very thankful that we can still have access to produce and still have that produce ripen on our countertops, even after it's picked off the tree. And when it's in a warm area, a warm environment, it ripens faster than if it was in a cooler environment. And so in Alaska, it's just naturally cool. So that's why my fruit was always took forever to ripen, really. And here in Arizona, it ripens so quickly because it's always warm. It's always warm. The air is always warm in your house. No matter how cool you kind of keep your house, it's still warm. It's still warm. It's lovely. I love it though. I love it. And I know it's just kind of interesting because over the years since I've started my channel, I've noticed when I was in Alaska, a lot of people would ask me why I kept my fruit on my countertop and never stored it in my fridge. And well, there's a reason for that. It's because it's the climate that we live in. It's different. The climate that I live in is different from you and from you guys. And then when I was in Alaska, is definitely different from everybody else because I was so far north. But of course, there's people who are in colder states that are in the lower 48 that do get kind of cold. But Alaska just stays icy cold way up there because it's so far north. But it's just amazing how how the climate has an effect like that. And so that's the reason why I always kept my fruit out on the countertop. I still do that now, but I'm finding that I actually have to move a good chunk of my produce in my fridge just so I can slow the ripening process down a bit. And so I'm like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But another thing is it's so much easier to get the juicier fruits in a hotter climate because your body's calling for the water. It's kind of odd. When you're in a cold climate, it's hard to get your liquids in. If any of you guys are from a cold climate, you know what I'm talking about. It's just hard to get liquid in, just hard just to drink water. You can eat your fruit, but I mean, when you talk about trying to get your liquids in, it's really hard to get your liquids in because when the body's cold, it's just weird. It just doesn't You just don't desire any liquids. I don't know if it's that way for you guys, but it's that way for me. And I noticed now that I've been in Arizona for at least 6 months now, it's been 6 months now, half a year now, I have noticed even during the winter months, since the winter temperatures here in Arizona are like Alaskan summer temperatures, it's still summer to me. It's just now that we're in the spring summer mode, the heat is hiked way up now. It's in the 90s, getting into the hundreds now, and I'm like, holy moly, this is extreme summer now. This is extreme summer. And I'm just noticing, like, yeah, your body wants more hydration, so it's much easier to get those smoothies in. It's much easier to get those juicier fruits in, and it's much easier to get more in, I've noticed. That actually depends. For me, it depends. I notice I can get a lot more liquids in, but it's kind of odd because I'm noticing, like, the hotter I am, more hotter my body is, it's kind of like the harder it is to eat, you just don't have a desire to eat. I don't know if it's that way for you guys who are in warmer climates, who are in hot climates, or who are in Arizona right now, the same as me. I don't know if it's that way for you guys, but of course it depends because it depends on how long you've lived in that hot climate. Because when I'm just starting out, so my body has never felt heat like this. It has never felt heat like this continuously, so I'm trying to adjust and acclimate to it for the first time. And because I'm so used to a colder climate, and usually when you're colder, when you're at a cold temperature all the time, your body's constantly shivering, trying to stay warm, so you're kind of always wanting to eat because you're using energy. But when you're in a hot climate, you're not really using much energy, are you? I don't think the body's really using much energy. It's just trying to stay cool. and it's not shivering ever at all, really. So there's a benefit to the cold, I guess, in a sense, but I still would choose the heat over the cold if you ask Miss Staci, guys. But there's one other thing I wanted to mention too, because I lost my list of questions that you guys have asked me, and I'm so sorry, but I can't answer the rest of the questions that you guys have asked me. So if I haven't answered your question in a video yet, please ask it and I will write it down, because I lost my list. I lost my list. And there is one question I remember that I wanted to briefly kind of talk about right now real quick. It was from Rodney. So hi Rodney, if you're watching. Now there are several different Rodneys that watch my channel that have commented, I've noticed over the years. So when I kind of talk about this subject, the right Rodney will know that it's the right Rodney who answered this question, okay? So Rodney, I remember I don't remember the exact question, so please forgive me if I don't get it completely right, but I remember the subject, and it was on temperature. He kind of wanted to know how, that it would be interesting if I kind of talked about the shock I kind of went through from moving from Alaska to Arizona temperature wise, because when I left Alaska, it was in October, so we were already in winter mode, getting into winter mode. But oddly, it was warm for October up there in Alaska. It was oddly warm that year. It was weird. It was in 2019 to October 2019, and so I left Alaska when it was in the upper teens to the lower 20s, and when I got down to Arizona, it was in the mid to upper 80s and got to the lower 90s a couple times. So there was a 60+ degree temperature shift. I definitely didn't go from 30, 40 below to 80 above, 80, 90 above. I didn't make that big of a shock change. I did do a shock change like that when I was traveling, when I was vacationing and trying to relocate, find a place to relocate. I did experience a shock like that, but that's a good shock if you ask me. I think if you're going from the 80s and 90s down to freezing temperatures and sub-zero temperatures, that's a horrible, horrible, horrible shock to the body, I think. And that is going to be totally miserable. But if you're going from the sub-zero temperatures and freezing temperatures to the 80s and 90s, that's a positive shock. So for me, moving from Alaska to Arizona, that immediate temperature change, it was no problem at all. Yeah, it was a bit toasty, a little roasty toasty for me. But it was wonderful. It was really good because I had the sunshine, it was clear, it was like a beautiful summer, perfect summer day, and it just kept every day, and I was like, wow, this is like never ending summer here. And it literally is. It's like never ending summer in Arizona, and I love it. I have never experienced this much heat and this much sunshine, this much blue sky, clear blue skies ever in my life. This is absolutely lovely, absolutely wonderful. And I just kind of wanted to mention that it's a really good positive change on your health when you take into account what climate you're in. What climate makes you happy? What climate makes you happy? Because there's some people who enjoy those cold climates. They are just peachy keen and all happy in their cold climate, and that is completely fine. And then there's people who love it when it's nice and hot. Then there's those people who like it Goldilocks zone, where it's just right, not too hot, not too cold, just right, you know. I'm someone who likes it just right, but I'm kind of in a phase in my life where I need the heat. I need to defrost. I need to defrost. I need to thaw out from my life in Alaska, being frozen all those years in my life. Okay, so this heat feels tremendously good to me. But yeah, that shock, it was a positive shock to me, and so that's something I didn't it didn't hurt me at all. It was wonderful. It helped me. It helped me more than anything. So I just wanted to mention that, you guys. So thank you guys for spending some more quality time with Miss Stace here. Okay, I'll let you guys go. Always remember to love being raw, you guys. Always remember to love being raw. Put a big old smile on your face today. I hope I did that for you. And I will see you guys next video, okay? Bye, guys.